The massive hall on Nexus Prime buzzed with activity. Hundreds of alien species filled the seats of the Galactic Council chamber, their voices mixed together in a strange symphony of clicks, hisses, and warbles. At the center of it all sat the High Council, 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Admiral Vextar stood at his speaking platform. His blue skin shimmered under the bright lights. His forearms moved as he talked, showing holographic images of star maps and fleet formations. The images showed human space, a small cluster of systems at the edge of the galaxy. "Look at these pathetic humans," Vextar said with a laugh. His voice boomed across the chamber. "They have maybe 200 ships. Old ships. Weak ships. They think they can challenge us?" The other council members nodded. Some laughed. Others made sounds that meant the same thing in their languages. Everyone knew about humans. They were the joke of the galaxy. A young species that barely knew how to fly between stars. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the human section. She was alone. Most species brought large groups to these meetings. Humans could only afford to send one person. She kept her face calm, but inside she was angry. These aliens had no idea what they were talking about. The humans refused to give up their mining colonies. Vextar continued. They think their tiny fleet can protect them. It is time to teach them a lesson. The hologram changed. It now showed the Coalition fleet, 800 massive warships. Each one was bigger than 3 human ships put together. The aliens in the chamber cheered. "We will crush them in one battle," Vextar said. "Then we will take their colonies. Their resources will serve the Coalition, as they should have from the beginning." Sarah stood up. The chamber became quiet. All eyes turned to her. She was small compared to most aliens in the room. Many of them were twice her size. But she did not look afraid. "The human government has already given its answer," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "We will not give up our colonies. We will defend them." Vextar laughed again. "With what? Your museum pieces? Your antique ships?" "With whatever we have," Sarah replied. The Admiral's eyes gleamed. "Then you have chosen war. The Coalition will show no mercy to those who stand against us." "We understand," Sarah said. She gathered her things and walked toward the exit. As she passed the other ambassadors, she heard them whisper. They were already planning how to divide human territory after the Coalition won. Sarah did not let her face show any emotion. But inside she smiled. These fools had no idea what was coming. The meeting ended. Ships began leaving Nexus Prime, carrying news of the coming war across the galaxy. In bars and markets on 1,000 worlds, people talked about the foolish humans who thought they could fight the Coalition. Far away, on a hidden base inside an asteroid, Admiral Sarah Kane received a coded message. She was Sarah Chen's sister, but the galaxy did not know that. They did not know many things about humans. Sarah Kane stood in the command center of the secret base. Around her, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Through the windows, she could see part of humanity's real fleet. Sleek ships hung in the darkness, their hulls black as space itself. Each one was invisible to alien sensors. "Admiral," her communications officer said. "We just received the signal from Nexus Prime." Sarah nodded. "Send the activation codes to all hidden bases. It's time to wake up the fleet." The communications officer's fingers moved quickly over his controls. Across human space, hidden bases received the signal. In asteroid fields, on the dark sides of moons, in empty space between planets, thousands of ships began to power up their systems. For 50 years, humanity had played a careful game. When aliens first found Earth, humans were weak. They really did have only a few hundred old ships. The aliens looked down on them, treated them badly, but humans learned. They learned that in this galaxy the strong took from the weak. They learned that aliens respected only power. So humans decided to become powerful. But they also learned to hide that power. Every trade deal with aliens, humans studied their technology. Every insult from alien ambassadors, humans remembered. Every time aliens laughed at human weakness, humans built more ships in secret. The aliens saw what humans wanted them to see. Old Earth Defense Force ships flying predictable patterns. Outdated weapons and shields. Military bases that looked like they were falling apart. But hidden from alien eyes, human engineers worked day and night. They took alien technology and made it better. They built shipyards inside asteroids. They trained crews in secret. They prepared for the day when the mask would come off. That day was coming soon. In the Coalition capital, Admiral Vextar met with his fleet commanders. The room was filled with the galaxy's best military minds. They planned the attack on human space with confidence. Intelligence reports show the humans have gathered their entire fleet near Earth, one commander said. 230 ships, all old models. Perfect, Vextar replied. We will crush them all at once. The war will be over in hours. The commanders agreed. Some suggested taking prisoners. Others wanted to destroy every human ship. All of them were sure of victory. None of them questioned the intelligence reports. Why would they? For 50 years, those reports had been consistent. Humans were weak. Human technology was outdated. Human tactics were predictable, but human intelligence officers had written those reports. Carefully crafted lies mixed with just enough truth to be believable. The coalition saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. On Earth, people went about their daily lives. They knew war was coming, but they were not afraid. In schools, children learned about the plan their grandparents had started. In factories, workers built the final pieces of equipment the hidden fleet would need. The visible Earth Defense Force prepared for battle. Their ships were old, just like the aliens thought, but their crews knew their job. They would make the aliens believe they were seeing humanity's full strength. In his office overlooking the Pacific Ocean, President Martinez signed the final orders. The deception that had lasted 50 years was almost over. Soon, the galaxy would see what humans could really do. He thought about his grandfather who had lived through humanity's first contact with aliens. The old man had watched aliens laugh at human ships. He had seen them take human colonies by force. But he had also seen the possibility hidden in that humiliation. Let them think we are weak, his grandfather had said. Let them laugh. One day we will show them the truth. That day was almost here. Across the galaxy, alien species watched their news feeds. The story was everywhere. Foolish humans challenging the mighty coalition. Some aliens felt sorry for humanity. Others thought they deserved what was coming. None of them knew they were about to witness the greatest military deception in galactic history. Admiral Vextar's fleet began moving toward human space. 800 ships, the largest force the coalition had ever assembled. They expected to find a small, desperate fleet defending Earth. They had no idea they were flying into a trap 50 years in the making. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. Through the massive view screen, he could see his fleet. 800 warships stretched out in perfect formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city. Together, they could destroy entire worlds. Report, Vextar ordered. All ships ready, Admiral, his tactical officer replied. We are 3 hours from the human home system, Vextar smiled. This would be the easiest victory of his career. Intelligence reports showed the entire human fleet waiting near Earth. 230 outdated ships, arranged in defensive positions around their homeworld. Send a message to all ship commanders, Vextar said. Remind them that we are here to crush human resistance once and for all. Show no mercy. The message went out across the coalition fleet. In hundreds of war rooms, alien commanders prepared their crews for battle. They checked weapons, ran final diagnostics, and reviewed attack plans. On the bridge of the Dominator, Vextar's officers worked with calm efficiency. They had done this many times before. The coalition had conquered dozens of species. Humans would be no different. Admiral, the communications officer called out. We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it on screen, Vextar ordered. The view screen changed. A human face appeared. A middle-aged woman in a military uniform. Her expression was serious but calm. I am Admiral Rebecca Torres of the Earth Defense Force, she said. You are entering human space without permission. Turn back now or we will be forced to defend ourselves. Vextar laughed. Several of his officers joined in. The human looked so serious, so determined. She had no idea how hopeless her situation was. Human Admiral, Vextar replied. You are vastly outnumbered. Surrender now and some of your people may live. Admiral Torres shook her head. We will never surrender. Earth stands free, the transmission ended. Vextar was still smiling. Brave words from someone about to die. All ships advanced to attack formation. The coalition fleet moved forward. Their sensors showed the human ships clearly now. Just as intelligence had reported, they were old designs. Their weapons were outdated. Their shields were weak. Human ships are taking defensive positions around Earth, the tactical officer reported. They appear to be using Pattern 7 defensive formations. Vextar nodded. Pattern 7 was taught in military academies as an example of how not to defend a planet. The humans were making every mistake in the book. They are making this too easy, Vextar said. Begin the attack. The coalition ships opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human fleet. The humans fired back, but their weapons were clearly weaker. Coalition shields absorbed the human attacks easily. Human ships began to explode. One by one, they disappeared in bright flashes of light. The formation around Earth started to break apart as more ships were destroyed. Human fleet is taking heavy losses, the tactical officer reported. They are trying to regroup, but we are cutting them apart. Vextar watched with satisfaction. This was going exactly as planned. The human ships fought bravely, but they were no match for coalition technology. In less than an hour, half the human fleet was gone. Admiral Torres appeared on screen again. This time her ship was clearly damaged. Smoke drifted behind her and her uniform was torn. Coalition fleet, she said. You may destroy our ships, but you will never break our spirit. Humanity will remember this day. Yes, Vextar replied. They will remember the day they learned their place in the galaxy. More human ships exploded. The space around Earth was filled with debris and wreckage. Only a few dozen human vessels remained, and they were badly damaged. On alien worlds across the galaxy, people watched the battle on their news feeds. The fight was being broadcast live. Most viewers felt sorry for the humans, but no one was surprised by what they saw. In bars and homes, aliens shook their heads sadly. The humans had tried to fight, but it was hopeless. Everyone knew this would happen. You could not challenge the coalition and win. The last human ships are falling back toward Earth, the tactical officer reported. They cannot fight much longer. Vextar prepared to give the order for the final assault. Soon, Earth would be defenseless. The coalition would take control of all human colonies. The human threat would be ended forever. But far from the battle, strange things were happening. In asteroid fields scattered across human space, massive structures began to move. What looked like ordinary asteroids started to unfold like flowers blooming in space. Hidden bases that had been silent for decades suddenly came alive with activity. Hangar doors opened that had been disguised as natural rock formations. Power systems that had been running on minimal energy suddenly surged to full capacity. On a moon orbiting a gas giant 20 light-years from Earth, Admiral Sarah Kane watched the battle through her command screens. Around her, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. The hidden base was now fully active. Admiral, her communications officer said, all hidden fleets report ready. We have confirmed activation signals from 2,700 vessels. Sarah nodded. The number was even higher than she had hoped. For 50 years, humans had been building and hiding ships. Now it was time to reveal them. Begin Phase 2, Sarah ordered. Send the recall signal to Admiral Torres. Back at Earth, Admiral Torres received the coded signal on a private channel. She allowed herself a small smile. The acting was over. Time to show the galaxy what humans could really do. All ships, Torres broadcast on an encrypted frequency. Execute Withdrawal Plan Alpha. Fall back to Rally Point 7. The remaining human ships began to retreat toward Earth. To the coalition, it looked like a desperate final attempt to defend their homeworld. Vextar ordered his fleet to pursue them. Do not let any escape, he commanded. Finish them all. But as the coalition ships moved closer to Earth, automated systems throughout human space received new orders. Hidden transmitters began broadcasting on frequencies the aliens had never detected. Across dozens of star systems, sleeping giants began to wake up. The deception that had lasted 50 years was about to end. The galaxy had seen humanity's fake face for so long, they had forgotten that humans were capable of having a real one. Soon, very soon, they would remember. Admiral Vextar looked at the tactical display showing the final human ships limping toward Earth. In a few minutes, the battle would be over. The coalition would have won another easy victory. He had no idea that the real battle was about to begin. In the asteroid fields, in the hidden bases in the dark spaces between planets, thousands of ships powered up their engines. Crews that had trained in secret for decades took their positions. Weapons that had never been fired prepared to show their true power. The galaxy thought it knew humans. It thought it understood what they were capable of. In a few hours, every alien in the galaxy would learn how wrong they had been. The mask was about to come off. And when it did, the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. Admiral Vextar was about to give the order for the final attack when his sensor officer shouted something that made his blood turn cold. "Admiral, we have massive sensor anomalies throughout the system." Vextar spun around. "What kind of anomalies?" "Space itself appears to be distorting. Like something is coming out of hyperspace, but the readings are impossible." On the main screen, space began to shimmer and bend in dozens of locations. At first, Vextar thought it was some kind of sensor malfunction, but then the shimmering areas began to solidify into shapes. Ship shapes. Multiple contacts appearing across the system, the sensor officer reported, his voice rising with panic. 60 contacts. 100. 200. The numbers keep climbing. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. Space around Earth filled with ships. Not the old, battered vessels the Coalition had been fighting. These were sleek, deadly-looking warships that appeared out of nowhere. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was that similar events were happening throughout the galaxy. In the Vegan system, Coalition patrol ships suddenly found themselves surrounded by human vessels that had not been there moments before. In the Centauri sector, an entire human fleet materialized near the Coalition's main supply depot. "Admiral," the communications officer said, his voice shaking, "we are receiving reports from across Coalition space. Human fleets are appearing everywhere. Our bases, our supply lines, our home systems, they are all under threat." Vextar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The screen showed thousands of red dots representing human ships. They had appeared in perfect formations, as if they had been planning this moment for years. "How many ships?" he asked quietly. "Still counting, sir. Current estimate is over 12,000 vessels." 12,000. The Coalition intelligence reports had said humans had barely 200 ships. Even if they had been wrong by a factor of 10, it would not explain what Vextar was seeing. A new voice came over the communications system. It was calm, confident, and absolutely terrifying in its certainty. "Coalition fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Kane of the Human Defense Forces. You wanted to see our military strength. Congratulations. You are about to become the first to witness what happens when humans stop pretending to be weak." On the screen, a human woman appeared. She was younger than Admiral Torres, but her eyes held a hardness that spoke of years of preparation. Behind her, Vextar could see the bridge of a ship unlike anything in Coalition databases. "Impossible," Vextar whispered. "Our intelligence reports were exactly what we wanted you to see," Admiral Kane replied as if she had heard him. "For 50 years we have let you believe we were weak. We showed you old ships and outdated tactics because that is what you expected to see." The tactical display updated again. More human ships were appearing every minute. They were not just around Earth. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human fleets were emerging from hiding in dozens of star systems. "All Coalition forces," Admiral Kane continued, "you have exactly 10 minutes to power down your weapons and prepare to surrender. Any ship that continues to show hostile intent after that time will be destroyed." Vextar found his voice. "You are bluffing. Even with these ships, you cannot fight the entire Coalition." Admiral Kane smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Admiral, you have been fighting our decoy fleet. The ships you just destroyed were volunteers flying obsolete vessels. They died to maintain our deception. Would you like to see what our real ships can do?" Before Vextar could respond, the human fleet demonstrated. A single human ship fired one shot at a piece of space debris near Earth. The debris simply vanished. Not destroyed, vaporized so completely that it left no trace. "That was our lowest power setting," Admiral Kane said calmly. "Our ships carry weapons that your scientists said were impossible to build. We took your technology and improved it. We took your tactics and found their weaknesses. We took your contempt for humanity and turned it into our greatest advantage." Around Earth, the Coalition fleet found itself completely surrounded. Human ships had appeared on all sides, above and below, cutting off every escape route. Similar reports came in from across the galaxy. "Sir," Vextar's tactical officer said quietly, "analysis of their ship formations suggests they have been planning this operation for decades. Every position is precisely calculated. They knew exactly where we would be." Vextar realized the truth. Human intelligence had not just been hiding their ship numbers. They had been feeding the Coalition false information for years. Every Coalition base, every patrol route, every strategic position, The humans had known about all of it. "You have been watching us," Vextar said. "Of course we have," Admiral Kane replied. "We have been watching, learning, and preparing. Did you think we would remain weak forever? Did you believe your own propaganda about human inferiority? On alien worlds across the galaxy, the news networks tried to make sense of what was happening. Reporters struggled to explain how humans had gone from having a few hundred ships to having the largest fleet in galactic history. In Coalition command centers, generals stared at tactical displays showing their forces surrounded and outnumbered. The humans had not just built a larger fleet. They had positioned that fleet with surgical precision throughout Coalition space. "This is impossible," Vextar said again. "Where did you get the resources?" "The shipyards." "The materials?" "From you," Admiral Kane answered. "Every trade deal gave us access to new technology. Every treaty allowed us to establish research stations in asteroid fields. Every diplomatic mission let us scout your positions. You helped us build the fleet that is about to defeat you." The truth was even more impressive than Admiral Kane was revealing. For 50 years, humans had been playing the longest game in galactic history. While aliens laughed at human weakness, human engineers had been studying alien technology. While aliens dismissed human intelligence, human strategists had been mapping every coalition's strength and weakness. The asteroid bases had been built slowly, carefully, using materials harvested from the asteroid belts themselves. The ships had been constructed in sections, assembled in the dark spaces between stars where no alien sensors could detect them. Human crews had trained in secret, learning not just how to fight but how to fight against each specific alien species. They knew Coalition tactics better than Coalition officers did. They had studied every battle the Coalition had ever fought. "You have 5 minutes remaining," Admiral Kane announced. "I suggest you use that time to contact your superiors. Tell them that the age of Coalition dominance is over." Vextar looked around his bridge. His officers were waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? His 800 ships were outnumbered 15-1. The humans had superior positions and apparently superior technology. But more than that, they had something else. They had been preparing for this exact moment for 50 years. Every human ship knew exactly what to do. Every human crew had trained for this day. The Coalition had walked into a trap that had been 50 years in the making. "Admiral Kane," Vextar said finally, "what are your terms?" The human admiral's expression softened slightly. "Power down your weapons. Prepare to be escorted to designated areas where you will be treated according to standard rules of war. Any ship that attempts to flee or fight will be destroyed without further warning. And after that? After that, Admiral, the galaxy learns that humanity is no longer the weak species it once was. The age of taking what you want from those you think are weaker is over. Across the galaxy, Coalition commanders face the same choice. Surrender to the humans they had dismissed as primitive or fight against impossible odds. Most chose surrender. A few chose to fight. Those few learned very quickly that human weapons were indeed everything Admiral Kane had claimed them to be. The galaxy was about to change forever. And it all started with the moment when humanity stopped pretending to be weak. The battle that followed would be remembered as the shortest and most decisive in galactic history. Admiral Vextar had barely finished ordering his ships to stand down when a group of Coalition hardliners decided to fight anyway. The Devastator, a massive Coalition battleship, suddenly opened fire on the nearest human vessels. Its captain had decided that dying in battle was better than surrendering to primitive humans. The human response was swift and terrifying. 3 human ships moved to intercept the Devastator. They did not fire their main weapons. Instead, they used what appeared to be mining lasers to surgically remove the Coalition ship's weapon systems. In less than 30 seconds, the massive battleship was completely disarmed but still intact. "Impressive," Admiral Vexatar muttered despite himself. "All Coalition vessels." Admiral Kane's voice came over the communication system. "The Devastator chose to resist. As you can see, we disabled it without destroying it. We prefer to take prisoners rather than kill unnecessarily. Do not test our patience further." But in the Vegan system, Coalition Admiral Corex decided to make a run for it. His fleet of 60 ships suddenly turned and headed for the hyperspace jump point at maximum speed. They never made it. Human ships appeared directly in their path, having somehow calculated exactly where the Coalition fleet would try to go. But these humans did something no one expected. Instead of destroying the fleeing ships, they used some kind of new technology to shut down their engines. The Coalition ships found themselves floating helplessly in space, completely powerless but unharmed. How did they do that? Vextar's chief engineer asked, staring at the sensor readings from Vegan's system. Energy dampening field, Admiral Kane explained, as if she had heard the question. We learned to disrupt your power systems without causing catastrophic overloads. Your crews are safe, but your ships are completely disabled. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Coalition forces that chose to fight found themselves outmaneuvered, outgunned, and ultimately captured with minimal loss of life. The humans seemed to know exactly what each Coalition commander would do before they did it. This was not an accident. For 50 years, human intelligence officers had been studying Coalition military doctrine. They had analyzed thousands of battles, interviewed captured Coalition officers, and built detailed psychological profiles of every major Coalition commander. Admiral Kane had wargamed this exact scenario hundreds of times. Her staff had prepared detailed response plans for every possible Coalition reaction. When Admiral Corex ran for Vegan's system, Kane's computers had already calculated his most likely escape route. When Admiral Thulex tried to form a defensive formation in the Rigel sector, human forces were already in position to counter it. When Admiral Zara attempted to call for reinforcements, she discovered that human ships had already disabled the Coalition communication relays. This is not possible, Admiral Vextar said, watching the tactical displays. No species can coordinate this many ships across this much space. You are thinking like a Coalition commander, Admiral Kane replied. You expect each ship to follow orders from a central command. That is not how we operate. She was right. Human crews had trained for decades using something called mission-type tactics. Each ship commander knew the overall objective and was trusted to achieve it using their own judgment. This made the human fleet incredibly flexible and hard to predict. Coalition forces, used to rigid command structures and predictable tactics, found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to think faster than they could react. In the Centauri sector, Coalition Admiral Drac tried to use his numerical advantage to overwhelm a smaller human force. He sent 200 ships against what his sensors showed as only 50 human vessels. But the 50 human ships fought like nothing in Coalition experience. They moved in perfect coordination, appearing and disappearing using some kind of advanced stealth technology. Coalition ships found themselves shooting at targets that vanished before their weapons could lock on. Admiral, Drac's tactical officer reported, the human ships are using tactics not found in any of our databases. They are fighting as if they know exactly what we are going to do. They did know. Human intelligence had been studying Coalition tactics for 50 years. They knew that Coalition commanders favored direct assaults. They knew Coalition ships were designed for stand-up fights, not the kind of hit-and-run warfare humans excelled at. More importantly, humans had learned from their own history. They remembered how smaller, more agile forces had defeated larger, more powerful armies throughout human history. Now they applied those lessons to space warfare. The Coalition had superior numbers in individual battles, but it did not matter. Human ships fought with a coordination and creativity that Coalition forces could not match. All Coalition commanders, Admiral Kane announced, you have now seen demonstrations of our military capabilities. We have disabled your ships without killing your crews. We have captured your bases without destroying them. This is your final opportunity to surrender with honor. Admiral Vextar looked at his tactical display. Of his original 800 ships, less than 50 were still operational. The rest had been disabled or captured. His proud Coalition fleet had been neutralized in less than 2 hours. But the most shocking thing was not the speed of the defeat. It was the restraint the humans had shown. They could have destroyed every Coalition ship. Instead, they had captured most of them intact. Why? Vextar asked. Why spare us? Admiral Kane's expression became thoughtful. Because we remember what it was like to be weak. We remember how it felt when stronger species took advantage of us. We do not want to become what you have been. Around Earth, Coalition ships began powering down their weapon systems. One by one, they transmitted their surrender. The officers were bitter, but they were also impressed despite themselves. The humans had not just defeated them. They had taught them a lesson about warfare that would be studied for generations. Admiral Kane, Vextar said formally, the Coalition fleet surrenders. We request that our crews be treated according to standard prisoner of war protocols. Granted, Admiral Kane replied. Your crews will be treated with respect and returned to Coalition space once this conflict is resolved. But even as he surrendered, Vextar wondered about something. Admiral, may I ask a question? Of course. How long have you been planning this operation? Admiral Kane smiled again. This time there was sadness in it. Since the day your species first laughed at ours, Admiral. Since the day we realized that in this galaxy, respect comes only through strength. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Across the galaxy, human forces were taking control of Coalition bases and supply depots. They were capturing strategic positions that the Coalition had thought were unassailable. But most importantly, they were sending a message to every species in the galaxy. Humanity was no longer weak. The age of taking advantage of humans was over. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were, really capable of when they stopped pretending to be something they were not. And some species were about to discover that having humans as enemies was far more dangerous than having them as friends. 3 weeks after the battle that shocked the galaxy, the Great Hall on Nexus Prime was filled once again. But this time, the atmosphere was very different. The same alien ambassadors who had laughed at humanity sat in their seats, but now they whispered nervously among themselves. At the center of the chamber, the High Council looked uncomfortable and uncertain. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked into the hall exactly as she had before. But now, no one was laughing. Every eye in the chamber followed her as she made her way to the speaking platform. Behind her walked a small group of human military officers, including Admiral Sarah Kane. The silence was complete. Even the usual clicks and hisses of alien conversation had stopped. Sarah Chen looked out at the assembled representatives of hundreds of worlds. Some avoided her gaze. Others stared with a mixture of fear and fascination. All of them waited to hear what humanity would say now that the galaxy had seen their true strength. Honored representatives, Sarah began. 3 weeks ago, this chamber declared war on humanity. You believed we were weak. You thought our small fleet could be easily crushed. She paused, letting her words sink in. You were wrong. A display screen activated behind her, showing images from the recent battles. Coalition ships disabled, but not destroyed. Coalition crews being treated well in human custody. Coalition bases captured intact. In 72 hours, human forces captured or disabled over 6,000 Coalition vessels. We took control of 47 strategic bases across 12 star systems. We did this while suffering fewer than 300 casualties. The numbers were devastating. The Coalition had lost most of its military strength in less than 3 days. But what made it worse was how easily the humans had done it. But I am not here to boast about our victory, Sarah continued. I am here to talk about the future. High Counselor Vrak, the Altarian who had supported the war against humanity, finally found his voice. What? What do you want from us? Sarah looked at him calmly. We want what we have always wanted, to be left alone to live in peace, to trade freely with those who wish to trade with us, to be treated with the same respect you show each other. And if we refuse? Another counselor asked. Admiral Kane stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice carried a quiet authority that made everyone listen. Then you will learn what happens when humanity stops being patient. She activated another display. This one showed a map of the galaxy with human ships marked in blue. There were thousands of them, positioned throughout galactic space. For 50 years, you thought you knew where all our ships were. You were wrong. We have vessels positioned near every major world in the galaxy. We know the location of every Coalition base, every trade route, every strategic resource. The chamber erupted in frightened whispers. The implications were terrifying. Humanity had not just won a battle, they had been preparing for galactic war for decades. But, Admiral Kane continued, raising her voice slightly, we do not want to be your conquerors, we want to be your partners. She changed the display again. Now it showed images of Coalition prisoners being released, medical aid being provided to damaged ships, human engineers helping to repair Coalition bases. We could have destroyed your fleets. Instead, we captured them. We could have killed your crews. Instead, we treated them with respect. We could have conquered your worlds. Instead, we offer you peace. High Counselor Vrak stood up slowly. What kind of peace? Sarah Chen answered. A peace based on mutual respect. No more strong species taking advantage of weak ones. No more wars of conquest. No more treating entire civilizations as if they exist only to serve others. You want to rule the galaxy? Another alien accused. No, Sarah replied firmly. We want to protect it. From species like you who think might makes right. Admiral Kane activated a final display. This one showed a document written in multiple alien languages. The Terran Accords, she announced. A new treaty that will govern relations between all galactic species. Equal treatment for all civilizations regardless of military strength. Protection for weaker species against aggression. Fair trade agreements that benefit everyone involved. And if we do not sign? High Counselor Vrak asked. Admiral Kane's expression did not change. Then you will discover why it is better to have humans as friends than as enemies. The message was clear. Humanity was offering peace, but they were also demonstrating that they had the power to enforce it. Over the next several hours, the details of the new order became clear. Human fleets would patrol major trade routes, protecting merchant ships from pirates and aggressive species. Human bases would be established in strategic locations to maintain peace. But most importantly, humanity would enforce a simple rule. No species would be allowed to attack or exploit another based solely on military advantage. This is unprecedented, High Counselor Vrak said during a break in negotiations. No single species has ever had the power to enforce galactic law. Perhaps, Sarah Chen replied, that is why the galaxy has been at war for so long. As the negotiations continued, news of the Terran Accord spread across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, weaker species celebrated. Finally, someone was powerful enough to protect them from aggressive neighbors. But stronger species were less happy. The Hegemony Coalition had built their entire economy on conquering and exploiting weaker civilizations. The new order would force them to change everything. You are making enemies, High Counselor Vrak warned Sarah Chen during a private meeting. We already had enemies, she replied. The difference is that now they know the cost of attacking us. The final signing ceremony took place a week later. One by one, the representatives of major galactic powers signed the Terran Accords. Some signed eagerly, grateful for human protection. Others signed reluctantly, knowing they had no choice. Admiral Vextar, recently released from human custody, attended the ceremony as a coalition representative. As he signed the document, he looked up at Admiral Kane. This is not over, he said quietly. There will be others who challenge you. Admiral Kane nodded. We know. We are ready for them. After the ceremony, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the human embassy, looking out at the stars. Admiral Kane joined her. Do you think it will work? Kane asked. Can we really keep the peace? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Our grandfather told me something before he died. He said that the galaxy respects only strength, but it remembers only justice. If we are strong enough to keep the peace and just enough to earn respect, then maybe we can build something better. And if we cannot? Sarah smiled sadly. Then at least no one will ever again make the mistake of thinking humans are weak. Across the galaxy, human ships took up their patrol routes. The hidden bases became visible, their locations no longer secret. The deception that had lasted 50 years was finally over. On Earth, children learned a new history. They learned about the 50-year plan that had transformed humanity from a weak, laughed-at species into the galaxy's protectors. They learned about the patience and sacrifice required to turn defeat into victory. And in the deep space between stars, construction crews began building something new. Massive space stations that would serve as neutral meeting places for all galactic species. Places where disputes could be settled with words instead of weapons. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once. They would never make that mistake again. But more importantly, they would never again have to fear that the strong would prey upon the weak. The age of galactic bullies was over. Humanity had seen to that. Admiral Kane's final transmission to the galaxy became famous across 1,000 worlds. Humanity learned long ago that the best weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. You spent decades teaching us that peace in this galaxy comes only through strength. Thank you for the lesson. We learned it well. The message was clear. The galaxy had created its own guardian by underestimating the species they thought was weakest, and that guardian would make sure no one else would suffer as humanity once had. The age of human weakness was over. The age of galactic peace had begun.